Here are 10 of the weirdest, dumbest, and most baffling laws still on the books in the United States. These laws range from the hilariously absurd to the downright puzzling, and you might find yourself scratching your head wondering how they ever came to be. You won't believe some of these. Let's jump in and explore these quirky regulations that make you question the logic behind them. In Alabama, it's illegal to drive while blindfolded. Yes, you heard that right. Driving with a blindfold on is against the law. This might sound like common sense, but the law was actually written to prevent daredevils from attempting stunts like blindfold driving for laughs or YouTube views. Imagine the chaos and danger that could ensue if people started driving without being able to see. The lawmakers in Alabama clearly wanted to nip this in the bud before it became a trend. So yes, someone somewhere made this necessary. It's one of those laws that makes you wonder about the stories behind it. Moving on to another head scratcher. In Arizona, it's against the law to let your donkey sleep in a bathtub. This might sound like a joke, but it's a real law with a rather interesting backstory. This bizarre rule comes from an incident in the 1920s when a rancher's donkey fell asleep in a bathtub that later floated away during a flood. The donkey was washed away, and a massive rescue operation had to be launched to save it. The rescue operation was so complicated and resource-intensive that lawmakers decided to put an end to bathtub naps for donkeys once and for all. It's a law that's both amusing and a little sad when you think about the poor donkey's ordeal. The law might seem unnecessary today, but it was a practical solution to a very specific problem back then. Now let's head over to Indiana for another peculiar regulation. In Indiana, fishing with your bare hands, or noodling as it's called, is completely illegal. This might come as a surprise to those who enjoy this unique method of fishing. The state decided it was too dangerous and disruptive to local wildlife. Noodling involves reaching into underwater holes to catch catfish, which can be risky for both the fisher and the fish. So if you were planning to show off your strength and reflexes by catching a catfish barehanded, think again. Indiana wants to keep both you and the fish safe. In Kansas, serving wine in teacups is strictly prohibited. This might seem like an odd restriction, but it has historical roots. This law likely originated to keep people from disguising alcohol during Prohibition. Back then, people would go to great lengths to hide their drinking habits, and using teacups was one of the clever tricks. So if you're planning a quirky dinner party with teacup cocktails, remember, Kansas isn't the place for it. It's a reminder of a time when alcohol consumption was heavily regulated. In Georgia, eating fried chicken with anything other than your hands is illegal. This law is as quirky as it gets and has an interesting origin. The law, passed as a joke to promote the town of Gainesville, is still technically enforceable. It was meant to highlight the town's claim to be the poultry capital of the world. One tourist was even arrested in 2009 for using a fork. Don't worry, it was all in good fun. The law is more of a playful nod to the town's heritage than a serious regulation. In Maine, you cannot park directly in front of a Dunkin' Donuts. This might seem like an inconvenience, but there's a good reason behind it. This law was created because Dunkin' Donuts locations were causing so much traffic congestion that lawmakers had to intervene. The popularity of the coffee chain led to traffic jams and safety concerns. So, if you're in Maine and craving a coffee, plan your parking wisely. It's a small price to pay for a smoother traffic flow and safer streets. In Minnesota, driving a red car down Lake Street is against the law. This is one of those laws that leaves you scratching your head. The origins of this rule are unclear, but some believe it was created to reduce distractions, or maybe just to annoy drivers with red cars. It's oddly specific and seems to target a very particular scenario. Either way, it's oddly specific and still on the books. It's a reminder that not all laws have clear or logical explanations. In Vermont, it's illegal for anyone to ban clotheslines. This law was passed to protect eco-friendly laundry practices from homeowner associations that preferred the look of dryers. This law was passed to protect eco-friendly laundry practices from homeowner associations that preferred the look of dryers. It's a win for those who want to save energy and reduce their carbon footprint. So, no matter how fancy your neighborhood is, you have the right to hang your socks outside. It's a small but significant victory for environmental consciousness. In California, you cannot whistle for a lost canary before 7 a.m. This quirky law was created to prevent early morning noise complaints. It's a considerate regulation for those who value their peace and quiet in the early hours. So if Tweety escapes, you better wait until the sun is up before you start your rescue mission. It's a law that balances the needs of pet owners and their neighbors. In Florida, it's illegal to sell your children. While this seems like an obvious no-no, the law was officially put in place to prevent desperate parents during tough times from attempting to profit off their kids. While this seems like an obvious no-no, the law was officially put in place to prevent desperate parents during tough times from attempting to profit off their kids. It's a serious law with a serious purpose. It's a serious law, but thankfully, not one people test often. It's a reminder of the lengths to which lawmakers will go to protect the welfare of children. Which of these wild laws blew your mind the most? Each of these laws has a story behind it, reflecting the unique history and culture of the places they come from. Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts and any other strange laws you've come across. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more weird facts from around the world. Stay curious and keep exploring the oddities that make our world so fascinating.